Hey people, welcome to the Run Testers. Now that we have done the necessary test miles in the Mizuno Neo Vista 2, we are here to give you our multi-tester take on the update to Mizuno's Big Stack Soft Daily Trainer. Will this shoe suit your style? Does it deserve a spot in your rotation? Watch on to find out in our Mizuno Neo Vista 2 multi-tester review. First up, some key details, and the Neo Vista 2 stack height comes in at 45mm on the heel, 37mm on the forefoot for an 8mm drop. That's notably bigger midsole stack and bigger drop than you're going to get from the Neo Zen. It weighs in at 9.5 ounces or 267 grams in my UK men's 8. That's a US men's 9 test shoe. On price, it's £150 in the UK, $200 in the US. That is a $20 bump in the US over the Neo Vista first gen. To give you a quick shoe width round then, starting with the midsole, which has a dual foam setup. You've got a big wedge of supercritical nitrogen infused Mizuno Energy Next foam up top. That's there to provide the kind of bounce and the energy. There's a slice of nitrogen infused EVA at the bottom. That's there to sort of bring some stability. More on that later. In amongst all of that, there's a Mizuno Wave plate. That is also there to provide stability and disperse the impact from the foot strike. The midsole is rockered with what Mizuno calls its kind of smooth speed assist geometry. Again, that's going to try and give you some smoothness through those transitions and help you move from heel down to toe off really nicely. Up top, you've got a new knit upper with an integrated tongue with this kind of one-piece sort of booty style design. The uppers here are perforated down the sort of outside, but otherwise I'd say everything's quite kind of dense and strong. It's not too thick though. You get two pull tabs, one on the heel, one on the tongue to help you get the shoe on into that booty fit. There is no padding in the heel and there's no real heel counter to speak of. These kind of claps down. You just get these sort of two overlays on the outside to offer some side support. When you flip them over, you've got two big sweeps of Mizuno's X10 rubber either side of a big central cutout where you can see that Mizuno Wave plate. These trenches look wide enough to avoid stone catching unless you're running over very big rocks.
So when it comes to fit of the Mizuno Neo Vista, this is a shoe that has definitely come up pretty large for me. I've got a UK 8.5 here, which is a half size down on my normal UK size. It's a US 9.5, which is a size I use in lots of shoes though, but it certainly is still too big for me. I would go down at least another half size here in the UK. Just got too much room around the toes. Hasn't really been a problem on the run. I'd say the overall booty design and the midfoot and heel hold has been good enough that my foot hasn't slipped around and it hasn't annoyed me at all to have all that extra space. But given that it's already quite a large shoe all round, I've certainly felt a little bit clownish having all that extra room in front of my toes. The upper's pretty solid all round though, and I do think it's a slightly less intrusive material or design than you had on the Mizuno Neo Vista 1, where I was kind of always very aware of that big upper on top of my foot. You've still got the booty design here, but I think it is a little bit more lightweight, and on a long run and that kind of thing, it did disappear on the foot a little bit better. Just look out for that sizing basically. So I would go half a size down in it, otherwise the fit's been fine for me.
So the fit for me in the Neo Vista 2, I'm a size 8 in the UK. This is actually a size 7.5. I think when I got it, it was suggested that I'd go down half a size, but it still is quite a roomy shoe. There's loads of space before my big toe, still in half a size down. It's a really roomy toe box, and even the midfoot is quite roomy as well, which is probably a welcome change to for anyone with wide feet. But for me, I did find it quite hard to get a nice lockdown fit in this shoe. Took a bit of time playing around with the laces. This new upper I quite like, but it does add this level of structure to it, which makes it a bit more spacious. The knit design in the previous version meant it was a little bit easier to get a lockdown fit, and I wasn't a massive fan of that upper either. But this one definitely is a bit tricky to get a lockdown fit in. I probably suggest going down a full size in the Neo Vista 2s, just because it's definitely a little bit of a spacious shoe and not great if you like a really tight lockdown fit.
To give you a quick word on fit then, and I actually ran in a UK 8. My normal size would be a UK 8.5, but I think that's what Mizuno recommended. I was a bit skeptical, but actually these come up better half a size down. There's still loads of room towards the end of the toe box. Everything holds really nicely across the top of the midfoot. I've got quite high feet, and these kind of booty shoes tend to be a little bit of a struggle. It's a real help to have these heel pulls and the front pulls to get the foot into the booty fit, and then once it's in there, it actually just feels really nice and snug with a good amount of wiggle room. There's hold across the sort of toe knuckles without being restrictive. There's a bit of flex there, so I don't feel
cramped. I just feel nicely held. The midfoot locks down really well. And then coming back into these heel collars, you've obviously got these very sort of minimal heel collars. There's not too much by way of padding and cushioning in the back there, and that can sometimes be a problem. But there's also not much by way of sort of too strong a heel counter. So I'm not getting any digging or anything. It just really sort of holds and supports. I think if you like a sort of heel counter and you need a bit of heel support, you're not going to get a lot from that there. I don't tend to suffer from that, and actually it just feels nice and comfortable with no digging in. So actually, based on that first run, I think Mizuno was right, and going half a size down might be the way to go.
So I was a massive fan of the original Neo Vista. It came out of nowhere, and for my style of running, it was absolutely perfect. It was a shoe, a daily shoe that just felt like so much fun out on the run. It was really bouncy. It rolled you forward nicely. If you were going out for an easy run, it made it just feel really fun and nice to do. Quite a lot of the time when I go out for a 10k run and I'm not really that keen on going out, it was a sort of shoe that made the run more fun. The Neo Vista 2 has had quite a lot of changes made to it, and the ride is different than the previous version, and in some ways not as enjoyable. What I found about the midsole in it, and I had to go out and test the original Neo Vista again just to make sure my views on this were right, because I spoke to Nick about it, and what I found about the shoe is that it is softer, but what I found about that midsole is that it doesn't feel like it's got the bounce and the propulsion that I got from the Neo Vista. The Neo Vista seemed to make running just a bit easier, and you could pick up the pace a bit nicer. It was really nice for consistent pace runs, and it's quite versatile as well. I feel with this one is going more down the realm of something like the Brooks Glycerin Max feel of a shoe, where you get quite a nice soft midsole, but it doesn't massively help you when you're trying to pick up the pace. Also, I went out in this yesterday, and I went for a fairly easy run, about 5-minute kilometre pace, which is generally what I do for most of my sort of 10k easy runs. And an easy pace, I found that it wasn't really helping me that much. It felt like it had a little bit of a sinking feeling in the midsole, and you weren't getting the energy back quickly or consistently in a way that just makes that foot run more enjoyable. So it actually felt like a little bit of a slog on that easy run. I'm a bit tired of it anyway. I did a leg session the day before, but I do feel that foam just sort of compresses a bit and just doesn't quite give it you back as quickly as you want it to pick up the pace and keep the legs ticking over. I do still think it's a very nice, enjoyable shoe. I think it's probably changed a little bit for me now from what I would class as a versatile daily trainer that you can use for lots of different runs to more of an easier day shoe. Probably something that I'd use for a consistent run at a fairly good pace. I probably wouldn't use it for really easy runs. I just think there's better shoes for that. I think the real issue comes from the rolling action. I don't think it rolls you forward in a nice, easy, comfortable way like a lot of easy day shoes do. And equally, the other side of the spectrum as well, I don't think it's a shoe particularly well designed for fast training either, because of the way that midsole works. So really, I think it sits in this realm now where it is a shoe that is probably good for a certain type of training, and I think that is probably that sort of consistent, longest distance pace training where you're not going full pelt and you're not going easy. You just want something that's nice and comfortable that you can sort of tick off the miles in. So it's less versatile than the previous version for me. So yeah, the other things I'll say about the shoe are the outsole. I still think this is very, very good. It's got a good layer of rubber on it. Had no issues with that at all. The shoe is still quite unstable, just because of the way that it's designed, as you'd expect from the way this shoe looks and the sort of midsole width and height on it. So it's definitely not a shoe I would suggest for beginners, because I just don't think it's got the stability that you would probably want from it. And definitely if you're turning corners and things like that, you can notice it's a little bit unstable. But all in all, solid shoe, but just didn't quite work for me the way that the original Neo Vista did.
So I've run around 50k in the Mizuno Neo Vista 2, using it for a mix of training runs. I've done a progression run, moving from an easy to steady pace in it. I've done a 15-mile long run and some flat-out easy stuff. I was a pretty big fan of the original Mizuno Neo Vista as, I guess, a super trainer that had a more relaxed design. It really shone at easy paces, at long run paces, that kind of thing. But it did have a bit of versatility. You could go and run fast in it. I went to the track in the Mizuno Neo Vista, I remember. And I think the new shoe shines in all the same areas, but I do think the ride feel has changed a little bit and made it even more suitable, I think, for easy and long runs rather than the faster stuff. Like, it is still fairly versatile. It can still run at speed, but I do think this is a shoe that's really going to elevate your experience on easy and long runs, but maybe not be, the all-rounder super trainer that you can get from other places. So the new foam in the midsole, for me, it just feels like a softer midsole all round. It still bounces back pretty well, but when I was running at slightly faster paces, it could sometimes feel a little bit sluggish. Like, I don't think it's a really responsive, energetic midsole that's designed, mainly for fast running. There are certainly super trainers that do that better, like the Hoka Mach X2, Saucony Endorphin Speed 5. They have a bit more kind of response and a fast returning energy to when you are running at speed. With the Mizuno Neo Vista 2, you've got that softer feeling underfoot, and it doesn't really feel like it's driving you forward as a rocker, but it's quite a smooth, relaxed rocker rather than one that's really tipping you forward to try and run fast. But you can run fast in it. Like I say, I did do some faster stuff in it, and it felt okay. But where it really shone for me was on the long run, and that's exactly the same with the Mizuno Neo Vista for me. So when I did my 15-mile long run in the Neo Vista 2, I'd done a pretty hard workout the day before on a Saturday, and I was going at 50 miles, just going to start. It was all going to be running on feel, just relaxed pace, and just it was a real delight, to be honest. You just kind of just over the course of a run, his legs just felt better and better and better, and just the bounciness was there, but it felt pretty light on the foot. It was turning over quite nicely when I was running up hills and that kind of thing, and the softness was perfectly balanced for me on that run. Like, I'd get a nice amount of sink in, felt great, felt comfortable, protecting the legs well, tired legs at the end of a week, but then bouncing back and helping me to carry on running without getting lost in a big pile of mushy foam. So yeah, that was really perfect, and it also was really good for flat out easy runs as well. And it's a fairly stable shoe, one that it's just great for cruising. And while overall my run test experience in the Mizuno Neo Vista 2 wasn't anything that special, I think overall I think it's a pretty okay shoe that does a variety of runs pretty well, but it does long runs so well, it actually does stand out a little bit. Like, it's a shoe you do want to use for your long runs because it feels great underfoot, it bounces back nicely, it's just so great to cruise around in. And it's it has changed my perception of the shoe overall because it did feel so good for that kind of run.
Now, in testing, I've run at least 25 miles in the Mizuno Neo Vista 2. I've put it through the usual wide range of paces. My longest run in the shoe has been around 90 minutes on feet. I've run mostly road. I've done some light off-road river paths where my runs take me along the Thames out here. After all of that, I think this is a shoe that I can't quite pin it down. There are some aspects that I really love. Like, I love the way the uppers fit and flex. It's one of the most comfortable sort of integrated booty style shoes that I've ever worn. The heel collars here look like they might not be long haul friendly. There's nothing really going on inside by way of cushioning, but they are actually quite comfortable over the long distance. Everything to me feels well held but not restricted, and I enjoy how the shoe feels on the foot for a mid-weight shoe that's maybe even light for the big stack that you've got here. I also love the way that they look. Then when you get moving, I keep flip-flopping from liking them to not so much, and it's really the soft midsole that's causing me the consternation. On some runs, when I'm probably moving slower and heavier, less fluid, or with less sort of pacey intent, I found them really nicely cushioned with a little bit of bounce, nicely protective when it comes to sort of dampening that road, but at times a bit overly soft with more wobbliness and a bit of instability that I would really like when I'm sort of heavy. Then when I'm moving around sort of marathon pace, a bit more up and at 'em, mid to forefoot, where everything sort of feels a bit more controlled. But they're almost sort of too soft to be a shoe that I would then choose for the really up-tempo runs. Like, there's some stiffness missing here from that soft midsole to get a really good bit of pop out of the return and the toe off. Now, I can cruise in this shoe. It's a really happy shoe for me at like 7.5 minute mile pace, which is slower than my marathon pace, but not my easy plod pace. And for that, I think it's great. I just think I want more. There are so many shoes that can do that and then tick up and down the gears, like the Speed 5, the New Balance Rebel V5, to name just two. I think there are better value all-rounders out there that I'd probably reach for first.
So my final verdict on the Mizuno Neo Vista 2, I think I don't think it's an improvement on the previous version. I think that shoe was absolutely fantastic and I enjoyed it for loads of different type of running, easy run all the way up to faster training sessions. I think the modifications to this have made it more of a specific shoe, and I think it's a shoe that doesn't particularly do really easy runs and it doesn't do really fast running particularly well. I think it sits in sort of training realm in between the two, where you're just going out and you're consistently running at a fairly comfortable pace, but you want to keep it clocking over nicely. So it's a tricky shoe now for me to use, just because I'm not entirely sure what the main focus would be. I wouldn't use it for easy runs and I wouldn't use it for faster training sessions. So it's a little bit more of a niche shoe now, which is a shame because I really, really like the original version. But I just don't think this midsole works particularly well for my style of running and what I'm trying to do with my training sessions. I think there are other options out there that probably do a similar thing. So if you're looking for a cushioned cruising shoe, you might be looking at something like the Brooks Glycerin Max, which is probably doesn't seem like a shoe that you compare with this, but I'd use that for the same reason that I use this shoe: consistent pace, longer sessions where I want comfort and a nice bit of help when I'm running at that. Nice bit of comfort and maybe a little bit of bounce and softness as well for those longer distance training sessions. And then if you're looking for a daily shoe that is really versatile, you want to go for something like the Speed 5, which is got a lot more to it than the shoe. This is definitely better at the slower pace side of things. You obviously get a lot more softness and a little bit more bounce from it. But that shoe is just way more versatile. If you're looking for this as a trainer for versatile training, you're probably not going to get it. You want to look at something like the Speed 5, especially if you're looking for a plate in it.
So verdict on the Mizuno Neo Vista 2. It's not a shoe that I'm in love with overall. I think it's a super trainer that's geared up more towards easy training and that kind of thing, and it does that pretty well. But its long run performance was so good. I think it's like a top 3 shoe out there for those relaxed long runs where you are just rolling around and mixing up your pace as and when you see fit, and it just felt so good for that. It does become more of an option to consider, I think, if you are someone who's doing a lot of long and easy mileage, and you just want a shoe that's protective, fun, bouncy, all those things. That's what the Mizuno Neo Vista 2 is. It's really good for that kind of run. It's not so great for the fast stuff, I would say, though, and there are more versatile super trainers out there that are still, really good long run shoes, maybe not quite as cushy and comfortable as the Mizuno Neo Vista, but they're then going to give you a fair bit more range in, when you're tackling workouts and that kind of thing. But I say for most people that long run experience isn't enough for me to recommend buying it overall, especially in the US where the price has got prohibitively high, I would say. It's still really good value in the UK, and I do think it's more of an option here, but I don't really understand that big price jump in the US. And that's putting it up against shoes that are simply better than it, I think, like the Asics Superblast 2, and lots of other super trainers that are good for easy stuff, like the Nike Zoom Fly 6, but then have a bit more range and pace when you are going to do fast workouts. I think the Zoom Fly 6 would definitely be a shoe I'd look at ahead of this, because I think it's got a much wider range of runs, and it is still really comfortable, if not as squishy and bouncy as the Mizuno Neo Vista 2. I think compared to the original version, I think you are getting a softer ride. It's a bit more kind of fun and relaxed for easy runs, but do think the Neo Vista 1 probably turned over a bit quicker at pace. Certainly would be happy to look at that shoe in sales, because that's also a fantastic long run shoe. So I would look for that first if you are considering the Neo Vista 2, because I think there is a slight upgrade in the foam here, but the overall performance I think is a bit more balanced maybe on the original Mizuno Neo Vista. If you're looking for a super trainer that does handle faster sessions better than this, and the Saucony Endorphin Speed 5 and the Hoka Mach X2, definitely two that come to mind. Really fast shoes, not as comfortable as this for long runs and easy runs, but they do work better across a wide range of paces, I would say. With this shoe, and if you're comparing it to kind of cheaper, more standard daily trainers, you things like the Nova Blast 5, the New Balance Rebel V5, I think those shoes probably offer a similar level of performance for most runs. You are getting more fun and bounce with the Mizuno Neo Vista 2. The ride is a bit more, like I say, squishy and bouncy, and it is a better long run shoe than them, but difference in performance wouldn't be enough to justify the price difference in the US, that's for sure. I'd definitely be getting those shoes ahead of this. It's upgrading the experience you get from those standard cushioned daily trainers a bit, and in the UK it's priced in line with them, and I'd be happy to recommend the Neo Vista if you are just looking for a really fun bouncy shoe for cruising through lots of general training. But in the US you can't recommend that when it's $200, because then you're suggesting it's delivering a real super trainer style experience, and I just don't think it does in terms of its versatility. But yeah, very, very fun long run shoe, one that is nice to have around if you can pick it up, or the original version for those long runs, but not one I think that has enough range and versatility to make it a standout option on the market.
Verdict then, and as I've said, the Neo Vista 2 has me a bit discombobulated. I'm a bit torn. I kind of really like it, and then sometimes I don't. There are things that I sort of really enjoy, some things I'm not so sure about. I like the way the shoe looks. I like the booty fit uppers. I think they're brilliantly comfortable for the way they fit my foot. I think everything works really well, though you won't get much support if you need it. I enjoyed the cushion and the energy that you get from the midsole, which is generally cushy. There's a nice sort of element of bounce to it, more so if you land further back. The whole shoe feels quite light for such a big stack shoe, and I find it's got a pretty good pace range. However, it is a touch soft to me. I wanted more stiffness control, I want more leverage, I want a bit more snap along with the compression and bounce. I had the same from the Neo Zen, and I think both shoes got to deliver quite a distinct ride. It works for me on some runs, but not on others. So I think it has got an upper pace limit,
and also when I'm moving slower, it's not quite stable enough. So for that reason, the sort of versatility question comes into my head. It's quite, it's quite similar to the Brooks Hyperion Max 3. I prefer the comfort of the Vista 2. They're lighter than the Max 3, but I like the added stiffness that comes with the Max 3. It gives a bit more control. If you need stability and support, I think the Max 3 is a better sort of shoe for that. However, I can sort of see fans of sort of softer rides who don't need as much support or as much stability sort of really enjoying the cushion in this shoe for longer, slower miles. That's where I think the Vista 2 really delivers. It's a pretty lightweight package that feels good on the foot. A really interesting shoe that's just really happy, almost cruising just above easy or just below marathon pace. I'm close to being a fan of this as the long run cruiser of choice. I had thought about deploying it for a chunk of the Berlin Wall 100 miler in August, but I just not quite decided to pull the trigger on that. Mainly because I just wish it had a bit more cushion in the collar that would give me a bit more guaranteed certainty. I do worry about if you're in hours and hours and hours on feet how that collar holds up. Anyway, so that's been our review of the Mizuno Neo Vista 2. Hope you found it useful. Drop us a like or comment if so. Hit subscribe if you're not already. If you're interested in softer big stack daily trains, I'm popping a video up on screen that you definitely need to go and watch. Get stuck into that. Otherwise, thank you very much for spending time on the channel watching the videos. And until next time, happy running, people.